Hammurabi lived from 7092 to 7050 before Christ. He was the king of Babylon and is mostly known for the Code of Hammurabi, which ties in nicely with his abilities in the game, because here he can use a military action as a civil action instead. This reminds us of the Code of Laws and ties in nicely with his history. His synergies are, for example, the Roman roads, which needs an extra civil action, so the extra civil action from Hammurabi finds a nice place. Also great is the Colosseum, because this gives Hammurabi an extra military action to work with. Same goes for the monarchy and the theocracy. But more importantly, both of these governments can be researched as a revolution. With Hammurabi's ability afterwards, you will have left one civil action to use. A weak spot of Hammurabi is that he doesn't get as many military cards because he spends his military actions otherwise. So you might find yourself missing some defend cards, tactics, or events to push into the events deck. Homer was born in the 8th century BC. He was a Greek poet who is mostly famous for writing the Iliad and the Odyssey. These two epics were probably read by a lot of people, which is why he gives a happy face in the game. He also gets extra rocks for building military, because that's what all these epics are all about. He also has a special ability where you get to keep the happy face when replacing him to upgrade a wonder. His synergies are, for example, the swordsman, where you can use the extra rocks easily. Also, the Colosseum is a great choice because here gets an extra military action for the same effect. You can also go with Barbarossa, who needs extra happy faces and rocks. Alternatively, just get the happy face and replace him with an early H1 leader. A weak spot is definitely that he doesn't get back the civil action when you replace him. Another one is that the extra military rocks can be quite hard to use because military is not that great early on. Also, you need a finished wonder when you replace him or the happy face will be lost. Julius Caesar lived from 100 to 44 BC. He was a Roman general and statesman and is most famous for fighting in and writing the Bellum Gallicum. His abilities are all about that military as well, because he gets an extra military strength as well as a military action. As a statesperson, he also gets a bonus to his political phase, because he gets an extra political action to seed events, go for aggressions or offer pacts to his opponents. This leads us to his synergies. Being able to push 2 events in the same turn means he can go for a lot of strength and try to win the strength events that he pushed. Alternatively, he can try to get a lot stronger than his opponents and try 2 aggressions in the same turn. His opponent will really struggle to defend against both of them. His weak spots are, for example, if he doesn't draw the correct cards. Having 2 political actions needs a lot of political cards to be pushed or aggressions to be done. Alternatively, if he pushes a lot of strength events but isn't able to keep being the strongest, he might get punished himself. Alexander the Great lived from 356 to 323 before Christ. He was the king of Macedonia and created one of the largest empires of his time. His abilities in the game are that he gives an extra strength per unit, be it warriors or knights. He also gets an extra political action called Alexander's Conquest, where you replace Alexander to gain 1 yellow cube. This yellow cube really improves your yellow bank, because you can go up to 3 population without having to spend any food for your consumption. After doing that, you should replace or you should get a new leader as soon as possible, because you will be left without one. A weak spot is that you have to use your politics action when doing Alexander's Conquest. You also don't get back your civil action when replacing Alexander, because it's during your political phase. The extra strength from Alex can be useful, but it's most of the time it's just too slow. Aristotle lived from 384 to 322 BC. He was a Greek philosopher who is credited with setting the groundwork for the development of modern science. His abilities are that he gets an extra science for every technology that he takes into his hand. For this, he obviously needs a lot of civil actions, which leads us to his synergies. Pyramids is considered to be the best wonder for Aristotle, because with the extra civil action you are able to grab more technologies and also keep them in your hand. You also want to start thinking about spending some of the science on Code of Laws or Monarchy. These are considered to be very good because they cost a lot of science and give you extra civil actions, which you can then use to grab more technologies and regain some of that science. A weak spot is obviously if you don't have enough civil actions, because you won't be grabbing as many techs. Also, a problem comes if you don't have enough hand space to keep all the technologies in your hand. Dark Ages can also cost you some of the precious science you just built up. Moses lived somewhere between 1600 and 1200 BC. He was an important prophet who freed the Israelites from Egypt when they had a population boom. Later on, he also fed them with manna. This ties in with his abilities because he gets to increase the population for less food. This often leads to a population boom, which is not always easy to handle. In my opinion, Moses is one of the harder leaders to play. His synergies are wonders that give extra happy face, because with the extra population you're gonna need it. Also important is to have extra civil actions to be able to increase population almost every turn. Population should not just be sitting somewhere but put to good use on some of the buildings. A weak spot is definitely the corruption. If you don't increase population enough, you can have food sitting around, which gives corruption. Also, you might be looking at a yellow bank like this at the start of age 2. In this case, be very careful about rebellion. Especially important, don't take wonders that take extra civil actions, because you're not gonna have any spare civil actions.